So is there any correlation between movies and UPSC? You can put in the comment on what is the day that we celebrate in India on Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee's birthday. Hello everyone. So most of the times हम जब prelims देने जाते हैं, it often happens कि paper देख के we keep on thinking ये question आया कहाँ से? Some people have a speculation that it comes from the Kit Kat tabs. So here you can see that they had mentioned about Gandikota, and then we also had a question on the Gandikota. So okay, this is something which is well known to a lot of people, but let us try something more interesting which we can look at. So is there any correlation between movies and UPSC? Have you ever thought of that? If not, let's look at it today. So earlier in 2016 there was a movie called The Man Who Knew Infinity. It was based on the life of Mr. Srinivasa Iyengar Ramanujan, who is one of the greatest mathematicians of all times. So on his life story, we literally had a question directly based on a movie. Now, moving on further, we might see that there was a movie in 2020 which was called Sonic the Hedgehog. Not kidding. The question had something like this, that consider the following animals and which of the following would, in order to reduce the chances of being captured by predators, which would roll up. So the rolling up part is a very tricky question if someone looks at it that way. So anyone who had seen the movie might have been able to answer the question a little better way, because of course one can assume pangolin, and then if we are to assume hedgehog as well, then coming to the answer becomes easier. So do we have to watch all the movies? Of course not. And what do we have to do? We have to do some smart work. How do we do the smart work? We will look at some movies which can have a high possibility of turning into a question. So let us look at it. So starting with the first and foremost, Pushpa. Of course, a lot of people know about Pushpa, but the underlying issue here is that of Red Saunders and its smuggling. The UPSC has asked a question on Red Saunders. There is a high possibility of asking again. So we have seen that there is a movie, there is a social issue, there is an environmental issue, and there is a PYQ. So it has a high chances of coming into the paper, not in the direct form of the movie, but in a modified form of an underlying issue or concept. So of course, the most famous Academy Award winning film we have is The Elephant Whisperers. So what about The Elephant Whisperers? Why would it be a question? It can be a question. There can be a question with regards to elephants, their endangerment status, their locations, the elephant sites, and whatnot. There has already been a PYQ in 2020 about the elephants. So there is a high possibility of a question depending on the movie. For this, do you have to watch all the movies? Not necessary. But do you need to know the basic concept of the movies? Absolutely yes. Coming on to another famous movie which is based on the life of Mr. Sam Bahadur, who is the first Field Marshal of India. The movie was brilliant, of course, but then again you have to remember the events of history which occurred in his lifespan. Naming a few, the war between India and Pakistan with regards to Bangladesh is one of them. The liberation of Bangladesh, the events leading up to there becomes important with regards to current affairs, history, and PYQs. Next up, one of the most famous Hollywood movie, the Oppenheimer. Now, people have wondered whether they should be watching Barbie or Oppenheimer. Let's not get into that. So with regards to this movie, we have to remember the Manhattan Project, how the atomic bomb takes place, what all are the issues. You should know a little bit more in details about the entire atomic reactions, apart from just the historical events. So herein we will be having a scientific angle as well as a historical angle. Speaking about the movie RRR, the most famous song Natu Natu won an award. So there can be a question on the life of Mr. Alluri Sitaramaraju, or there can be n number of questions combining the social issue and the British presence in India. Next up, we have rocketry, which is based on the Nambi effect. So over here, you need to keep in mind cryogenics. Cryogenics is one of the most important property which is essential. If anyone knows, there was a PYQ in mains on cryogeny. We can have more and more questions which can be based on the basics of cryogeny, cryogenics engine, Vikas engine, and much more. So it's not just important to study about Mr. Nambi Narayanan, but one has to look into the fact that how these things are correlated. Might not be a direct question, but there can be a question inspired by it. So now comes the biopics. Biopics are basically the kind of movies which are inspired by someone's real life stories. We might have seen a lot of biopics in the recent history of Indian cinema, but there are a few which have been very recent and can inspire some questions in prelims. You need to know the concepts, you need to know the basics, and you need to be able to connect the basics so that you can answer the question well. One such biopic would be Mr. Amar Singh Chamkila. Then we have Article 370. It was a movie, yes. Let's just ignore all the associated debates and let's just focus on the knowledge we have. We need to know about Article 370, we need to know about Article 35A, and on top of that, we need to know about the events that had happened. Further, we also need to look at some other special articles, including Article 371. We also have to focus on the Supreme Court judgment regarding the same. Next up is a biopic on Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, which is named Main Atal Hu. Again, the movie might not be as important as the personality in here. So, post-independence India, direct topic, okay. Now, we have to remember what all events are associated with his lifetime. We also have to remember how his birthday is celebrated in India. You can put in the comment on what is the day that we celebrate in India on Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee's birthday. So, next is the movie called Savarkar. It is based on the life story of Swatantra Veer Savarkar. Again, do not get into the complexities of the issue, get into the basics of the issue. Know who the personality was, know what they did, and the events in history associated with them. Now, there are also some fictional movies like the Planet of Apes, of course. But how can we have a question on that? We can have a question on apes. There are the great apes, you need to know how many are there, what can be done, how they are classified, what is their endangerment status, and stuff like that, okay? So that was it from my side. I hope it was helpful, and I really hope that some of the questions can be inspired by that. But again, please note that prelims is prelims and nothing is guaranteed. All the best.